All right.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to episode 2 of our chat interview, UnitedWeTech. In this episode, we are going to be chatting with Julie Koesmarno from Microsoft. I have known Julie from a long time from the SQL community and really happy to have her on the show. My name is Mala. I'm a SQL Server professional since 1999, and me and Leslie, we are co-leads on the data platform Women in Tech virtual chapter. So I'll let Leslie and Julie introduce themselves now, and we will get along with the show.
Hi, everyone. A few things before we get started. Be sure to go out to our website, dataplatformwit.com, and sign up for our monthly newsletter so you can get notifications when we do a new video. Like Mala said, my name is Leslie Andrews. I'm the co-lead of the organization. I am a consultant and a speaker, and I'm so happy to have Julie here with us today. Julie?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Cosmano. I am a program manager at Microsoft. So it's actually quite interesting because some of us actually refer to ourselves as product manager. There's also the program manager, but there, to me, it's somewhat similar. So I'm excited to be here to talk to you about a lot of things related to, I guess, women in tech, some of the top of mind women in tech kind of, maybe not so much issues, but challenges. Also, maybe we can deep dive into some of the other data stuff that I've been working on.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
So you can all go out and follow her at MS SQL Girl on Twitter, and that's also her blog post, her website. You can go out and check out her blogs. One of the things that we wanted to talk to her today about is one of her recent blog posts on you have to be technical and its relevance.
Right. So you have to be technical is a line like, women, we get it a lot, like a lot. I mean, I could talk all day about this one thing itself. The underlying assumption, especially if it's a man interviewing you, is that you're not that, and they're not even sure what they mean when they ask that question. Generally, it is thrown at you because you're a woman. Like, this role is very technical, like as if you're interviewing for something else. And so it turns me off over time. I've gotten used to it, and I learned the different ways to field it. So I want to ask you first on what prompted you to write this blog post and your experiences with that.
Yeah, this is it was an interesting, an interesting time in my career. So I've been in the industry for about, I'm dating myself now, probably about 17, 18 years now. So I've been in the industry for quite some time. So I work with SQL Server a lot. I work with big data and data warehousing quite a bit as well. And I have to say that while the work is rewarding, that's why I chose this career, I did have a little bit of snags along the way, especially times when I get asked or when I get interviewed and then they say, hey, you have to be technical. It took me about 2 years, no, maybe more than 2 years. It's been a while now, a few years when before I actually wrote this down. Like, I had this idea, I let it sit on my blog post, and then I looked at the blog post again. It was like, oh, this has been a couple of years, so let me kind of try to look into it. So obviously when it happened, I didn't write anything about it. And then I was thinking about writing it, so I started putting on the draft folder, in the blog post. And then after a while, I'm like, hey, let's take a look through this draft and see what I got. And then I just went, oh, maybe this is a good time to revisit that, because I felt a little bit more confident in writing it, because a lot of this is also showing vulnerability about my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then it may also be taken in the wrong way from other folks as well. So as such, when I wrote the blog post, I started with a line that says, hey, this is not an imposter syndrome kind of blog post. Mm-hmm. Definitely not. Mm-hmm. I do have imposter syndrome from time to time, but not
mm-hmm.
this
we all do.
one.
Yeah, we all do. I think that's different though.
So one of the reasons why I mentioned that up front is usually this is the case. Say if I was having a problem, typically when I talk to someone who could be, I don't know, maybe someone who's a bit more senior than me, someone who might have a power authority. They usually go, well, Julie, as a whatever, person that, in this situation, you should have done something. So in this kind of situations, there are usually two actors, right? The person who might actually said something not right, in which case I would say you have to be technical. And then the person who's receiving that kind of message. So typically when I, go to another person and asking for advice, brainstorming, hey, this happened to me, what's going on? Usually I hear this like, hey, don't be a victim. And you should have done this. And I get annoyed whenever somebody who says to me, hey, don't be a victim. No, like, who wants to be a victim? Right? A lot of the time, whenever it's, I guess, challenges in the women in tech, I often hear as well, like, don't be a victim. And I don't think that's the right way of wording it.
No, I fully agree that. No, for me, two thoughts in that regard. Victimization exists. It's a real thing. Like, people pick on others, become victims all the time, especially in the corporate world. And second, just because a person is venting doesn't mean they're stuck with that feeling all the time.
That's true.
Like today, maybe my bad day. I'm just feeling low. I want to say it out loud. So I just say it. And nowadays people do that on social media a lot. Maybe it's not the right thing to do. I don't know, but I wouldn't judge someone just because of the way they're feeling on one particular day. Maybe they really got picked on and are feeling like, like low about it. I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah.
So I guess in that blog post, I was trying to highlight that, this is an experience that I have. I'm being vulnerable. I wanted to share it with you, not to get an advice. I'm not soliciting an advice on what I should do. I'm just sharing to give you a bit of perspective that there are some biases in the world.
Right.
And how can we do a little bit better? So the second thing about the blog post that I wanted to highlight is actually, if you really kind of read closely, words do matter.
Yes.
So there's a difference between you have to be technical versus you are going to be doing technical things.
Right. I love that. Wonderful. Well said. Yeah.
Being technical or be technical sounds like you are born with this privilege that unless you're being selected of this royalty, that you will never gonna be able to make it in the technical world. So words do matter. So I would like to encourage folks who are actually talking to other folks about technicality or being technical. Can you rephrase it to something that is more useful, more productive, like you are expected to do this technical? Be as specific as you can. So as an example, if you were kind of interviewing for a product manager or program manager kind of role, maybe one of the expectations is that you're going to write functional specs. And then if that is the case, just say, you're expected to write functional specs. Are you comfortable with that? And if it's the first time you're going to be doing this, are you going to be comfortable with learning it on the job and seeking out, advice or, learning from others? There are so many different ways that you can make it to be more productive. And that actually gives me to the last message in that blog post itself. I learned that I actually love economics.
You love what? I'm sorry? Economics?
Economics.
Economics,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so I've been listening to this podcast called Think Like an Economist. So as part of my job, I'm a product manager. I have to do a lot of decision making. I have to always try to figure out what is the optimized way for us to get from A to B so that the customers can benefit from whatever that we're doing, right? So typically, in the past, I would have been a little bit more, well, I'm just going to try it and see how it goes. And I'm trying to think about, hey, how can I be more systematic about this? And it wasn't until I actually worked in the business analytics role, when I was lead in that group. We worked with a lot of data, and we worked with a lot of other program managers to decide, for example, how do we become more data driven? What kind of questions should we be asking? So for example, if you want to grow certain types of segment, what kind of data should we be using? And even more important is actually, what is the better questions that you should be asking? And guess what? A lot of that is actually economic thinking, economics kind of thinking. And I didn't learn it until probably a couple of years ago. And then I got fascinated by this game theory. I actually learned about game theory as part of my elective subject in university at Australia, so Australian National University. As part of one of the topics in mathematics class, it was actually game theory. So I learned it only a little bit, so I was trying to kind of remember what it was about. And so if you look at the footnote on my blog post, I actually mentioned a little bit about game theory. So this part here is, to me, is interesting because let's switch back to the problem, right? Which is, or the challenge, right? On the you have to be technical. So here I was, actually I was approached. Hey, Julie, you're actually, know quite a bit about SQL, about data. Do you want to apply for this job? And I thought, yeah, of course, I'm going to try it. And then came to like maybe the third meeting or interview. It was kind of this, you have to be technical, was kind of mentioned to me a few times, and it bothered me. So then a few years later, I was thinking, if I was looking at it from game theory, how would I analyze this problem? So I'm just applying the theory of game theory to the actual practical application. So here's the thing. When you're interviewing for a job, you are planning to work in that environment. And as a hiring manager, they probably want you to kind of, be in that job and be successful. So that means there's going to be a relationship. Now, within this environment where you work together, if you start the principle of your hiring and your work relationship as a zero-sum game, you will never achieve anywhere, both of you. So that's my argument there. Why do you have to start the interview with you have to be technical? Because it poses this perception of negativity, like you're not there yet. So your first move, if this was a game, your first move is the bit of non-cooperation. If you study game theory, I had a small study on that, but I'm sure if the economists out there watching this, hopefully they'll probably can, I guess, support my argument here. If you want to get somewhere, especially in this situation of working relationship, you have to start with the cooperative way. Because if we are going to have this work relationship as if it's a zero-sum game, you would never win. One of you is going to lose. And are we building a team? So assume that, I got accepted in that role. I'm working with that manager. Are we working in the team where we are competing against one another? Or are we actually working in a team where we have a mission that together as a team, we're going to build something?
Yeah.
So I had quite a bit of fun geeking out on that experience in particular, because I get to think about how do we phrase things from, avoid victimizing the other person. Like, you should have done this, you should have done that. And then how do we think about that words actually do matter?
Yes.
And then how do we think about game theory and relationship? So it's actually one of the most vulnerable as well as fun, I guess, blog posts that I've ever done. I did give some suggestions as well, kind of in another industry as an example. If this wasn't an IT or software kind of industry, how would you be interviewed? Say if I was a painter, hey, you have to be painty or be creative or something. It's like, well, what is it that you want me to paint? Is it, is it like Picasso-like things? And then if you're a pianist, you have to be musical. Does that even
Yeah.
make sense when you ask in an interview like that?
And also assuming that the only skill that somebody has is being technical. I've seen a few people like that. The only thing they're good at is sitting in front of a computer and coding. Those people normally, they're not good fits in a team. You need additional skills to blend into a team, not just interact with the computer all the time.
Yeah.
Right, and those skills are important. And I think April Wenzel, I think is her name. I follow her, the girl who runs Compassionate Coding. She takes objection to some of those skills being called soft skills. For that reason, is because they're devalued, and they're so important when you're part of a team. Is you need to pull as a team. You need to find the right person for the right job. So many different things.
Yeah, I heard a better way of saying soft skills, which was, I think, power skills.
Oh, I like
that. Because
That's
it empowers you to be, it empowers you to be able to talk about what you have done.
Right.
It allows you to communicate with other people. Right. So, and hopefully leverage other people's work as well.
Right.
So, some of the things, so some of you probably knew, but I started as a consultant. I worked in, I used to work in Australia, and then I moved to the States to work at Microsoft. And one of the things that not many maybe have told you before, but what it's like to work at Microsoft, the scale is humongous. So every little bit actually do matter. And while you can get away with, I'm gonna, for example, as a consultant, I'm gonna code this and I'm gonna kind of have it ready and I'm gonna ship it and then I'm gonna move on to another job, right? Maybe you could get away in a small company and doing consulting for that small company. But when you get to a big corporate like Microsoft, these things matter. Like you have to kind of think at a different level. So you'll be some of the things that you don't think about before might work in the kind of smaller scale. You get exposed to that. So it's been a very fun learning times for me because I get to learn this and then applying some of the geeky stuff like economics theory into my real world. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I am very thankful in terms of where I am today. Despite a lot of the, sometimes when you get on Twitter, you hear quite a bit of some of the challenges that we as women in tech actually get to see. It is actually a rewarding journey for me. So the pluses kind of outweigh the minuses. And I'd like to encourage people to kind of give it a go. And then there is this, I wish I could like show you, but it's Liz Morley, I think her name, on Twitter. She shared this beautiful kind of comic strip with a girl pushing up the hill, like this stone or this big rock on the hill. And then it says, just because you can endure, it doesn't mean you have to. So in any situation, and this is the learning that I have, just because I can endure, I mean, yeah, moving from one country to another is not easy, right? I've had, I've learned a lot of big mistakes in my life as well. But that's what it was like, that was in the past. But just because I could endure that, it doesn't mean that I have to do it again. So if you're looking for a job, and actually that blog post that I wrote was specifically because there were a few people asking me questions like, hey, I want to look for a job, but I'm kind of a little bit stuck in this funk and I don't know how to get out of it. So, and that kind of prompted me as well to write that blog post eventually. But at the same time, ask like, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you value? What is it that you want to do, that you want to go, that you are willing to go, that you are having fun and actually getting energy when you go deep to the next level, And that right there is do technical, not be technical, do technical.
So in your blog, you got the three possible responses to the, you have to be technical, and, you followed up with, and you just have to figure it out. That is what really resonated with me. You have to figure it out.
Yes.
And to me, that is so much more important than being able to rattle off, server sizes that, Azure support. I don't know, but I can go in and I can dig and dig and dig and dig until I figure out this is where the data comes from. This is how this process works. This is what's really happening. Because most of the people in a company at the, at that executive level, well, it just happens. Oh, well, I just run this report and I get what I need. Why can't you just, do that for me over here?
Right.
And being able to, dig down deep, figure out, this is that query. This is where it's coming from. Oh, no, it's not a database. It's coming from a file extract that somebody's getting provided. And oh, can I get that query? And, being able to track all of those pieces back to the very beginning so that they can come back and say, okay, yes, I can do what you want. And this is, and have the solution. I've always prided myself, I'm a solution finder. I'm not a problem solver, because you can't always solve the problem. You can always find a solution though.
That's a great line, Leslie. Solution finder, not necessarily a problem solver.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
One of the, about that specific line, you'd have to figure it out. There is another side of looking at it, which is you'd have to figure it out by yourself. Nobody's going to help you.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you are in this zero-sum game. You're all alone. We're going to lock you up somewhere in the dungeon. You have to figure it out. You're not allowed to talk to anybody else and ask questions. Yes, it has happened to me, unfortunately. I mean, not the locked in the dungeon.
Oh, yes.
It has happened to me before where, I'm sorry, you cannot ask for help. Okay, I don't think society is gonna exist until today if nobody is gonna help each other out.
Exactly. The shame around asking for help, especially publicly, I've seen, and sometimes I even feel sorry for some men. Men have a lot of that. Like, they don't like to be seen as vulnerable or somebody who does not know. So hold back and, either do something wrong and get found out that you did something wrong, or, just don't ask, don't appear dumb in public.
Yeah.
Right. And
a few folks about that, actually, a few folks have asked me, what is it like to be a program manager or product manager? While we do have some, expertise in certain things, like in the previous episode with Kate, she talked about how she's, her background, or she has a lot of knowledge in the QP side of the world. So that's pretty awesome. You kind of need to know, you have that kind of niche kind of area that you're good at. But a lot of the time as a product manager or program manager, you have to be vulnerable, because you have to ask the basic questions. Why is this important to you? Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customers or Miss Customers, you are using this product, or you are using things this way. Why is it important to you? Can you help me to understand what's your entire journey? So that was kind of the biggest thing that I learned when I became a program manager. Because when you're a consultant, you're there to solve problems, right? You have to be the expert. But when you're a program manager, you have to ask that kind of, basic questions so that you give context about what we're going to build.
Right.
So program manager is by far, in my career in tech, is, I would say, the most vulnerable job. Because you have to be ready to be wrong. You have to be ready to ask the kind of simplest question, and then work with a lot of people as well. So it is what we do in the, I guess, in the software engineering kind of world, in the software world here that, Microsoft obviously produced. We have to work as a team. We view software as team sport. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Very good to hear. So what is the new role you are in, and what is the kind of cool stuff that you're building with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun with the analytics world a few years ago. And then I wanted to try a little bit more on the kind of like dev story and the tooling sort of aspect. So that's why I joined the SQL Tools team. And I did really miss that whole analytics world again. So I've decided, so I was looking for, so this was internally within Microsoft, I was looking for a position where I can really, push my analytics sort of expertise further. So I've decided to join a small incubator team to start with. We call ourselves the Insights Platform team. It's under the Business Applications Platform group, so under Cosmano. So if you know Power Platform, or actually quite a lot of Dynamics 365 or business apps, that's actually under Cosmano, at least right now. So I'm part of that kind of big org. So yeah, we're trying to, or we work on bringing insights to these various business applications, from no code to low code developers or citizen developers. Or business users, as well as the business application. So my background, when I was in university many years ago, I actually did quite a bit of, besides the software, back then we didn't have software engineering, so it was more like software development. I think software engineering was really new term. IT was the most popular term that we used. So, so as part of that major of the degree, you have to take electives. Some of them were maths, and some of them you have to take something from the business and economics faculty. So I took maths. Luckily, maths was under business and economics faculty, so I took that. And then I took the I took financial accounting. So and my parents used to own a business back in Indonesia, so I sort of learned quite a bit about how small business was run. And so I really love the ability to take tech into something really useful for businesses or for business users. So some of these people might not have, IT degree or software engineering degree. So how can we like empower them to be able to leverage this technology? It should be much like, I guess what I mentioned in my blog post about gatekeeping. Is this be technical, is a gatekeeping way, how can we kind of like not gatekeep the mass, the business users into using technology or being able to leverage technology? So I thought it was, to me, it's a very appealing mission. So that's why I joined the org. Yeah. And it's been a blast. I learned a lot. Again, talking about being vulnerable as an example, I'm learning quite a bit about Dataverse. So that's new to me. I dabbled with it before when it was called CDS. And so now like a lot of things have changed as well. So I'm trying to just keep up, but that's what you do in tech, right? You learn new things every day. It's not be technical, it's do technical.
Right.
That's
So
right.
what is Dataverse about? Tell us, and some of our listeners may not know what it is too. So give us an overview of what it can do.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a brief overview on Dataverse. So a lot of you probably know a little bit more about Power Platform or Power Apps. And some of you probably know, especially if you're coming from the Dynamics world, there are a few Dynamics sort of suites or products that actually, that obviously need the kind of essentially a data backend or data platform. So that's what Dataverse is. So Dataverse helps expose how you interact with data, how you store with the data for these apps, various apps. But underneath, Dataverse actually uses quite a lot of technology from Azure. So Dataverse just kind of simplifies that, I guess, access layer or how you interact with it for business app users. So if my boss is watching this, sorry, I'm kind of new. I'm going to be vulnerable and learn new things. So here we go. Yeah.
No, I think it's important for people to understand that it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll figure it out, or I'll go find out, or whatever. And just being cognizant of the fact that nobody knows everything. Nobody does.
No.
And you can't expect somebody to know everything. And what you
Yeah.
really want is, how are you going to figure it out? How are you going to go and learn that thing so that the next time you're asked, you do know?
Right.
Yeah. So this is a tip for new graduates, and I wish I knew this a while back as well when I first started. Sometimes the question that you want to ask is, hey, I am learning. Can you help me understand X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And if you, hopefully you reach out to the, the people who are actually willing to, help you out. But sometimes that toolkit or toolbox of how to ask questions are super important. So there you go. That's one tip for people who are kind of getting into kind of like a new job. Can you help me understand X, Y, and Z?
Or
Usually
if you're in an interview and you get asked something that you just don't know. I was asked something very specific to Oracle. Never worked with Oracle. I had absolutely no idea. So then when we got to the end of the interview, they were like, "Do you have any questions?" I was like, "Well, yeah, what's the answer to that Oracle question?"
So that's one thing that I've seen in a lot of interviews that really impresses an interviewer, or most interviewers at least, is if you ask for an answer, I don't know, can you tell me what it is? I don't know. They really like it. If the interviewer is someone who's concerned about, interested in getting you in rather than look bigger at your cost, good interviewers like that question a lot.
Yeah.
That you're asking for an answer for something you didn't know.
Yeah. The other thing that, speaking about interviewing as well, as someone who, being interviewed, you could also try to figure out, is it possible for you to get coached? So for example, if you get asked things like, this, Oracle question that you might not know, or SQL Server question that you might not know, understand as well, like, how is that important for your role? And then is there an opportunity for you to learn from somebody when you have, when you're on the role itself? In some cases, they might be, outright and say, oh, we actually really need someone who's kind of already have that kind of expertise, because we're also not an expert in this area. So we kind of need someone to kind of just like dive in and then run with it. But in some cases, it might be that, they already figured it out. They just kind of need someone to help advance it a little bit more. So yeah, so understanding and having that kind of expectation is super important. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I love interviews. I don't know why. I think it's a great chance to meet people and understand how people interact, how people think, how they frame the questions. Are they coming from zero-sum game point of view, or are they coming from collaborative perspective? I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my particular instance, it was a SQL Server specific job, but they had a list of questions that they always asked every candidate, because in other areas, it was a mix, but the job I was applying for, it wasn't a mix. And so they just didn't target their questions for the position. They just, template, here's what we ask, and wasn't relevant to what I was going to be doing.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything else? What do you like to do for fun?
What do I like to do for fun?
Game theory, apparently.
Sorry, what was that?
Game theory, apparently.
Game theory, yeah. Besides listening to podcasts on game theory and such, I started picking up painting, acrylic painting. So
nice.
I don't know why, but it gives me, I don't know, it just relaxes me.
Yeah, and painting is very freeing.
Yeah, and then you can be very detailed as well. Like, I want the shadow to look like this because it's more realistic, etc. But you can also just go, you know what, I'm going to do abstract. And there's a lot of tutorials out there on YouTube as well that you can kind of follow. Yeah, so I don't know, like lately it's been painting. Before that was trying to learn piano. That one is a bit harder than
Yes.
painting.
Abstract piano.
So yeah, so that's for fun, besides spending time with my dog, or our dog Milo. I think he's sleeping somewhere right now. Sometimes you can hear him snore when you're taking a call, but not today. So he's having a good nap right now.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you like to read, and who are your favorite authors?
Ooh, yeah. So authors. Okay, Brene Brown's one of my favorite.
Oh yeah. Did you see she had to stop her podcast? I was so sad. I used to love
Spotify.
Yeah.
I thought she's actually picking back up, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think she stopped, but then she came back, and
Oh really? No, I
Yeah.
have to follow then. Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah, I'm a big Brene Brown fan too.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, you can still also catch her podcast on her own website too.
Yeah.
So so that might be good to do, or to go check out. Besides Brene Brown, Jim Collins. Jim Collins, he writes quite a bit of business books, but more in the leadership sort of point of view. And he actually does research on this. So it's not just kind of like, hey, all theory, no, but he loves research. So I think a lot of the books that he have published are actually based on his research. And I thought, like, wow, that is so like amazing. I love statistics. I'm not an expert in statistics by any means, but some of the things that he mentioned kind of reminded me of a bit of statistics and a bit of economy. So when I read his book, I'm just like totally geeking out there. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm looking for a suggestion on fiction books. So if any of you kind of,
do you like fantasy, like magic and dragons and
yeah,
epic stuff?
Yeah.
So Brandon Sanderson he's a writing machine. He's very methodical in his world building, where the magic has to make sense. It's not just, oh, you wave your fingers and it works, right? There's a method to being able to do magic. And so the Mistborn series are really good. He's in the middle of an epic fantasy series that spans like 10 books that are all like 1,000 pages plus. But he's not done with that one yet. He's also has got some great young adult stuff that's just super fun and light to read. One of them's about this kid who wants to kill a superhero who killed his dad. And so there's like this whole world building around that. And he's great. He taught at BYU. He did a fiction writing class that was filmed and put out on YouTube. So you could actually like attend his fiction writing class on YouTube.
Oh,
he's pretty incredible. Brandon Sanderson is my favorite.
I like history mostly. I like reading him.
Yeah.
Books based on history to him. The one I'm reading recently is one called March by an author called Geraldine Brooks. She was recommended by Paul Randall. I follow a lot of Paul's book recommendations because I like some of the stuff that he says. I don't have his range, but I like quite a bit of the books he recommends. So this book is on the Black Plague of London. It's based on two families that survived. It's fiction, of course, but it's very well written, very relevant for this time. And all her books are amazing. I love historical fiction.
Nice. No,
I like historical fiction too.
Yeah.
I miss catching a flight and reading like physical books.
Right. Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh.
Where I did a lot of reading was on flights.
Yeah.
So these days, mostly during my walk, then I would listen to audiobook or whatnot, or podcast, right? But yeah, I do sometimes miss like, just immersing yourself in this book when you're on a plane. So hopefully we get to do that sometime soon again.
Let's hope so.
I find it very hard to concentrate listening to an audiobook. I'll be listening and all of a sudden I'll be like, I don't think I've heard
I don't
anything
like
in the last
audiobooks.
15 minutes.
I don't dig them either. I like books. I like physical experience of reading a book. Yeah.
Yes. I don't let somebody else read it to me.
Some books that I want to go a little bit deeper. Typically, I just listen to the audiobook so I know which chapter I have to go back to and then really like write notes and understand it. Which is which is one of the ones with another author, Ben Horowitz. That's something that I have to do as well. Yeah. So yeah. So Mala, I think you're doing a communication studies or something, or media study.
Yeah, right. I went back to school. I'm doing an MA in strategic communication.
Ah, there you go. So words matter really kind of like resonate with what you're doing, right?
Yes, that's partly why I took it up. Also, not to mention the fact that it's just a 2-year program. It is very convenient, and it is formatted to work for people who have jobs and are doing it part-time. So we have just 1 credit at a time that we work on, and all the assignments and everything happen over the weekend, and the fees is reasonable and all that factored into it.
Yeah.
But overall, I think I've made a good choice, and I really like what I'm doing. At the end of 2 years, it'll be something totally different, which is exciting.
Yeah. That's good. What are you up to these days, Leslie?
I'm just doing the data platform WIT here, doing the consulting. I am speaking at Data Grillen in Germany this summer.
Yeah.
So
there you go, physical book to bring.
Yes. I got a long flight there. So I'm super excited. I'm kind of jealous everybody going to SQL Bits like next week. Everybody's posting all of their SQL Bits stuff. I'm like, oh, that sounds so fun too. But I can only afford 1 European trip.
I'm going to be virtual.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't feel safe enough to travel to Europe yet. And since yesterday, I thought I made a right decision.
Oh, yes.
In addition to the pandemic, now there's a war. No thanks.
Right.
I'll stay out for some time. Yeah.
And I'm really excited that the PASS Summit is going to be going back on this November in Seattle. So even if I don't get picked to speak, I'm coming up to Seattle, and I'll like virtual from my Airbnb if I have to.
Are you speaking anywhere, Julie? Do you speak much these days?
It's slowing down a little bit, because if when a couple of years ago when I was in the SQL Tools team, I did a lot of speaking on Jupyter Notebooks or Azure Data Studio. Right now, I'm stopping that a little bit because the things that we're building is still very new, so it's a bit hard to kind of bring it to the market yet. So once we figure out a little bit better on how we're going to pitch this, then I'll make sure that you hear from me again in the speaking arena. But yeah, for now, I will be living vicariously through others on Twitter or otherwise on SQL Bits and Data Grillen. I'm not sure if Data Grillen is recorded, but yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to ask Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I haven't been, Data Grillen.
I haven't either. I really want to go. And I hear
this is my first international conference, so I was really excited to get picked.
Yeah,
good for you. Yeah,
I feel like I'm like the only non-Microsoft MVP on the speaker list, or Microsoft employee. I'm like, ooh, works for Microsoft MVP, works for Microsoft MVP.
Yeah. But I think this. There's one thing that I wanted to say as well. From time to time, us, from Microsoft, we go to speak at conferences. Sometimes it's part of our job, but sometimes it's not as well, by the way. So when I used to work on the business analytics team many years ago, when I put together a session on SQL Server and machine learning services, it wasn't directly related to my my responsibility. But my manager, and this is one of kind of like, I guess, key tips, like if you have a really good manager that supports you on some of these things, it helps a lot. Like, remember what I said before, just because you can enjoy, you don't have to. So if you have a manager that supports you, oh my goodness, it helps you to kind of like have this personal satisfaction, because you get to, you know, present, teach others, meet people, understand about the products a little bit more at the same time. Yeah, without, with no guilt, essentially. So yeah, but I'm glad that you're gonna be meeting a lot of people, Leslie.
Yes.
Give lots of hugs, maybe not, I don't know, like personal boundaries.
I do waves.
COVID,
we wave. Hi.
Wave.
In fact, so I went to a conference, Code Mash, in Ohio a couple weeks ago, and one of the badge ribbons that they had was wave, handshake, hug, right? So that you could tell the level of comfort that somebody would have with proximity. I'm like, oh, I'll wave.
So I will freely admit, after 20 years of SQL hugs, I will have a problem with just a wave when I see those friends I haven't seen in a long time. That's partly why I don't go. I'm going to wait until it's safer and just go when I feel safe enough to give and receive hugs. That's just how I am. I'm not just wave and go on. So it's going to take some time, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And I also want to say too that getting involved in the community that's how you get jobs. That's how people know that you can get things done, whether you're technical or not, or just being able to have the confidence to talk on a subject. Right. When you're in an interview, somebody asks you a question. Well, if you've done a presentation on that thing, you just go right into your spiel and you know exactly what you're talking about, and you sound very professional because that's your spiel, and it really makes a big difference in the confidence that you have, the way people see you, your abilities, your and the opportunities that arise from that.
Yes, I fully agree.
They're life-changing. They really can be life-changing. My life changed because of them. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't have to feel that you're on this journey alone. That's also very important, and this is why community is important, right? I think I have to say
the past summit thing, this is like I used to do the first timers mentoring, and Julie was actually on my team for that. And the next year, she was speaking on the summit stage with the keynote, and I got the Passion Award. How cool is that? It was really nice.
That was same year
that
right?
happened.
2019, is that when you won that?
2016.
2016. Okay.
2016. Yeah. We met in 2011, I thought, Mala.
Maybe. Maybe. I might have the years wrong.
Yeah. So I got to meet a lot of folks, and I was pretty. I would have to say, hard work is kind of important, right? But there's an element of luck as well that I managed to meet with a lot of people who are actually willing to help. It's not so much. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but sometimes there are a lot of people who have traveled a little bit farther than you are in terms of career. And then they suggest you, hey, maybe you want to take the SQL Server certifications, back in the day, the MC. MCDS,
MCSE, whatever all the letters were.
So, and then, and that was actually really good. It got me a bit of a boost of, actually, I know quite a bit of some of the things that I was doing. So if you're one of those folks who are actually in the, already traveled further in the industry, what does we usually say? Hopefully I say this right. Lift others while you
lift as you climb.
There you go. So
I learned that from Reed, and it's a good line.
Yeah. So this is an example of learning from one another, right? Like this session here, and then talking to some other folks as well, like Reed. Should I say Buckwoody's name?
Sure, we can say Buckwoody's name.
He says,
I want to say that one of the things that's really inspiring about Microsoft is that there are so many women in those positions, and that you're visible out on Twitter. You know, there's people out, and so you can go and find somebody that works at Microsoft and looks like you, whoever you are, right? And you can, whoever you are, you can find somebody at Microsoft that's a manager and be able to inspire and, you know, encourage and let people out there know it can happen for them too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have to say that there are really genuinely like really good people out there in the community. Some obviously are in Microsoft, some but also like non-Microsoft people, and I have to say that I'm grateful for the people that I've met so far in this whole career. Like it's I don't know, I wouldn't take anything back. Like I said, like as much as some of these issues or challenges that kind of still happen, I think we're getting better at it. And then at the same time, the positive way outweighs the negative. So yeah, but you know, stay true to yourself, make sure that you actually get to do what you want to do. And hopefully you love what you do as well. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Julie. Those are great last words to end the chat.
All right.
It was a total pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mal and Leslie, and best of luck with the rest of the podcast. I'll be tuning in more. Yeah, thank you for keeping us in the community to stay together and then to help each other out. Really appreciate what you do and your time as well. This is obviously not free, right? It's also costing your time and your effort as well, and how you are very thoughtful about what you want to bring into the community. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. We had a great chat with you.
Yep.
Awesome. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.